Today on The Report, the allegations and lawsuits continue to pile up against one of hip-hop's biggest moguls.
And the longest-serving Senate leader is set to step down come November.
Plus, things aren't all they seem in the world of pure imagination. It's all coming up on The Report.
Hello, I'm Jasmine Alvarez.
I'm Kemdi Wosu.
And I'm Justin Rosette. Welcome back to The Report. Be sure to follow us on X at The Report CSUF and on our Titan TV Instagram at Titan TV CSUF to stay in touch with us and keep up with the latest content.
Rapper and media executive Sean P. Diddy Combs is finding himself in some further hot water following a sexual assault lawsuit by a former girlfriend that was eventually settled out of court. A multitude of other allegations and lawsuits have been filed against the rapper, and many companies have cut ties with him. The development in this ongoing story concerns Rodney Little Rod Jones, a former producer and videographer for Combs. He recently filed a civil lawsuit claiming that Combs did not compensate him for his producing work, forced him to procure and interact with sex workers, threatened him, and served laced alcohol to partygoers at his home. In terms of restitution, Jones is seeking $30 million. When questioned on the matter, Sean Hawley Combs' attorney stated, quote, his reckless name dropping about events that are pure fiction and simply did not happen is nothing more than a transparent attempt to garner headlines. We have overwhelming, indisputable proof that his claims are complete lies, end quote. Hawley said in the statement, quote, our attempts to share this proof with Mr. Jones's attorney, Tyrone Blackburn, have been ignored. As Mr. Blackburn refuses to return our calls, we will address these outlandish allegations in court and take all appropriate action against those who make them, end quote. So how do you see this case unfolding? What do you guys think?
I'm honestly not sure because, you have your big kind of like moguls. You've had the Harvey Weinsteins in the past, and they kind of, I actually don't know what's happening with that. I know he's been in court for years, but I don't know if anything's actually happened. That's because these rich guys kind of can just like bury you in litigation for like years until anything actually happens. It would be interesting to see, and it's like, to see like what happens as a result, like not only to like him, but like his company and then other people that he was associated with. So
I think it obviously looks very bad for Diddy. I mean, a couple months ago, as we said, his ex-girlfriend Cassie had sued him for things such as rape, abuse, sex trafficking, and just terrible things. And the thing is that the day after she sued him, the case was settled because we figured that he most likely had paid her off, which obviously doesn't look good for him in that situation. But since then, even though she repealed the case, a lot of other allegations have come out, seems like weekly now against P. Diddy. A lot of people are bringing up stories, things he did back when, and I think now this is just like another added layer onto that. So I think, as his lawyer said, that these things are not true and they have evidence. I think overall it doesn't look good for P. Diddy in this situation. I think they could go to court and they could have evidence to prove that he's innocent, but I think it doesn't look good for him overall.
Justin, you bring up a really good point about Cassie and her and ending up, settling outside of court. I think, I wish he would have settled within, and we've heard a lot of rumors, particularly circling around P. Diddy. And I tend to think where there's smoke, there tends to be fire. So, it's upsetting that she ended up settling out of court, but it makes me curious as to why. What was the reason? And if it had to do with being paid off and possibly his influence.
Yeah, I think it was kind of disappointing when Cassie, what it seems like, took money from Diddy to be silent, because a lot of victims in that situation, that have been through things, aren't in a situation where they can just be paid off, So the fact that she did that and revealed all those things that he allegedly had done to her, and people had seen signs of her being uncomfortable around him for years, and they started dating. She was 19 years old and he was 37, so it was just a bad situation. And so I think the fact that she did take the money from him and just choose to be silent about it kind of messes it up for other victims in that situation. But I think other people were still brave enough to come out about things, as the producer here. So I think we'll see how this turns out. But overall, I think not a good look for P. Diddy, but we'll see how the court case goes.
Yeah, and I think it would be good to see them actually take action against him, right? Because I think it would set a precedent for the music industry now. I think we've heard a lot about how the music industry in the past has kind of this negative stereotype of kind of being a little shady, or, you know, if you're a woman, it's a little predatory. So I think it would, if we see action being taken against these moguls and we see, hey, your money is not going to silence us and we are actually going to speak against this, perhaps we can see a change in the music industry for good, for the better.
I agree.
And you also want to, you know, make sure that like it doesn't happen where like Harvey Weinstein's kind of like this guy that like everyone like shows is like, oh, okay, now that he like basically has been caught, like it's all over, this isn't going to happen anymore. But, you know, there's always that fear that like he's just kind of like the scapegoat, the one that they like take the fall basically, and then they keep kind of like doing what they do behind the scenes, but they just make it more discreet, so like they don't get caught.
Right, more elusive, yeah.
Octogenarian, Senate Whip Minority Leader, and Kentucky Senator Mitch McConnell has announced he will step down as GOP leader come November. McConnell will remain on the U.S. Senate, but allow the next generation of leadership to take the helm at the Senate Republican Conference. McConnell, the longest-serving party leader in history, has been the subject of much speculation as of recent, having suffered a concussion in March of 2023, and later experienced several episodes where he appeared to freeze up during press conferences. McConnell has also been at odds with his party on issues such as funding for the war in Ukraine, and also seemed to butt heads with former President Donald Trump, with the two not having spoken in some time. Speaking publicly on his retirement, McConnell has stated, quote, "As I have been thinking about when I would deliver some news to the Senate, I always imagined a moment when I had total clarity and peace about the sunset of my work," end quote. McConnell said in his floor remarks, quote, "A moment when I am certain I have helped preserve the ideas I so strongly believe, that day arrived today," end quote. So this is interesting. I think we talked something about this in the last episode about just like political figures kind of staying in office, like maybe a little more than they should in terms of longevity. It's quite impressive that he's able to stay in for so long, but you know, he is 82 years old. So what do you guys think about the whole, going back to the whole term limit thing? Do you think, or not term, age limit? What do you think about age limits in terms of like political office? Do you think that should be a thing?
I think, as you said last week, I feel like there should be more of a sort of youth movement when it comes to politics. I don't think it's like super young, but I think an age I was thinking is, let's say, like 70 to 75. You know, if once you get to 70, if your term is still going, maybe you can finish out your term and then step down. And like he said, he wanted to pass it off to the next like generation, which I feel like he's 82, which I feel like could have passed that off a decade or two ago.
Yeah.
But I think when it comes down on a serious note, like after we saw him freeze, that's like a genuine concern. So it's like, I think once those things kind of happened, I think that's kind of what told him it was time to go. But I think age limit, I would say 70 to 75, I feel like could be. And also another thing is he's still remaining in the Senate. So he's still not completely out of politics. He's just not going to be in the GOP seat anymore. So I think that's something to look at.
You know, I think there should definitely be an age limit for, you know, running for office, whether that's for the Senate, for presidency. My reasoning isn't to be ageist, although I know that that's reasoning why a lot of times. However, if there's a limit to when you can start to run for some certain things, I think there should be a limit to where we have to cut it as well, particularly if it's no longer going to affect you or your generation anymore. And that's not to be morbid per se, but we have to look towards the future, and we have to look towards change for the future, ultimately.
Yeah. I mean, and think Mitch McConnell, he was there till he was 82, and he's like still like suffering. We saw the episodes. We've all seen the video of him just like stop like speaking. Yeah. And I just think that's crazy that these people want to like stay until like they really can't do anything anymore. I mean, Reagan, he was in office until 89. He got Alzheimer's like literally a year later, and he just kind of suffered the rest of his life. I also want to know, what do you guys think? Why do you think they want to stay in office for so long? Is it like really power? Or is it like, if they give up the power, is it like a sign that they're like, you know, acknowledging their old age and that like, you know, their time is like starting to come, basically?
I think when it comes to a lot of maybe different professions, I think it may be just not being able to accept that maybe your time has passed or that you're not going to be able to do your job as at a high level as like, a couple years ago. So, and I also think the power thing, being in the GOP seat, that is a whole lot of power, So maybe just from an aspect of like he's comfortable in his position, he knows he has a lot of power and that he can use it in the ways he wants. So he's not ready to pass that down yet. But I think that's kind of just what comes with that is you have to realize, and what he's realizing now, that it is kind of that time to pass it down.
Yeah, you guys both bring up good, valid points. I think that's definitely probably the sentiment of not wanting to let go, having like trying to hang on to the good days, right? But I think definitely what we should think about is, if we're in office, specifically office where we're causing change and we're doing change that affects the future, if we're not doing it for the proper reasons, if we're doing it for power and not for the betterment of the community, for society, I think that's when it's a problem. And I think definitely it comes into question when they don't want to let go, because if you don't want to make space for new and also great people who can help the community and society, then really why are you hanging on? It's a good question as to what could be the reason as to why.
Families were promised, quote, optical marvels and extraordinary props, end quote, but were instead witness to an almost empty, barely decorated warehouse and offered a small cup of lemonade. This event, held in Glasgow, Scotland, was eventually shut down by the police, and the story went viral almost instantly on social media. On Facebook, organizing company House of Illuminati said, quote, today has been a stressful and frustrating day for many, and for that we are truly sorry, end quote. Quote, this was an event gone wrong, end quote. Another post said, quote, the House of Illuminati will not be holding any other event in the foreseeable future. End quote. House of Illuminati had promoted the event with an extravagant website filled with fantastical images and long descriptions of a, quote, enchanted garden, imagination lab, and a twilight tunnel, end quote. The actors were, quote, mortified by the whole thing, end quote. CNN attempted to contact House of Illuminati for comment via the email addresses available on their website, but the emails bounced back. So with this Wonka story, what are your guys' thoughts on the whole thing that went down? What are your guys' thoughts on the event?
This honestly feels like, I don't know if you guys have heard of the movie or the musical The Producers, but I feel like that's, weirdly enough, because both involve Gene Wilder, Willy Wonka, and The Producers, but the story, it basically covers a group that tries to put on this musical, basically, and they want it to do so bad that they basically get to write it off for tax purposes. And that's what I'm thinking they might want to do with this. I feel like it's like some huge scam. I did some more research, basically they were doing, the actors were given AI scripts, there was AI generated basically everything. They really spared every expense they possibly could. And I just think it sucks really for the kids because, I'm sure kids, especially with the new Wonka movie that just got released in theaters, kids are probably excited to and go and see some kind of recreation of Willy Wonka's chocolate factory, but they're graded to the images that we've all seen now on social media, and it really sucks because those experiences those really shape you as a child. People think, oh, they'll forget about this. Sometimes they don't. Mm-hmm. I remember a lot of things from my childhood that are very disappointing, and yeah, but it really does suck, and it sucks that someone's probably just gonna go away with all the money because those people aren't getting their refunds back. So.
Right.
What about you, Jasmine?
I don't know. I'm hoping they'll get their refunds back, but it doesn't seem like they will. And I am starting to lean towards, thinking it's more of a scam than it is really trying to craft an authentic experience for the consumers, right? Because ultimately, I think that's what it should be. If you're paying your hard-earned money, you should get an amazing, thrilling experience. And, even if it's not a huge event, it could still be made memorable if it's small scale. However, this was not the case. Like Kemdi said, the pictures speak for themselves. But it's unfortunately, and it does look like it's a scam. What are your thoughts?
I definitely think it was a scam. I think when you think of the world of Wonka, you think extraordinary, you think of colorful, those kind of things, especially the way they also marketed on the website as this crazy experience. And then when you get there and there's a half full warehouse and AI generated props and scripts, I think it's just really disappointing. And I saw a report that said they were supposed to get refunds, but also are they really gonna refund these people their money? And I think like you said, it's kind of could be a scarring thing for the kids. Like, you know, being like excited to go somewhere to see this movie they saw, this musical they saw they really liked, and experience that in real life, and then you get there and it's like not even like, you know, kids were crying, and it was a really bad thing. So. And
then the emails bounced as well, so there's no way to contact them.
True, that's so true. I mean, the customer service.
Yeah.
You gotta
And
love
can they
it.
get a full cup of lemonade? What's with this half cup of lemonade? You really, like, did they go to Dollar Tree and just get like a single jug of it and then just like, we gotta make this work? You know, I don't.
Yeah, I also saw that the actor that was playing Willy Wonka was handing out like 2 jelly beans to each child. So that's,
Right, yeah.
that was their version of the world. So.
I guess it was budget Willy Wonka.
Yeah.
And with that, we've run out of time.
Thanks to all of you for tuning in with us, and don't forget to stay tuned for the latest world news and different views.
We'll see you all next time on The Report.